Hello there, welcome to the show. Today I'm going to do some horror movies. I'm going to do them up to Halloween, just have some fun with some horror movies. You see a lot of different channels doing like horror movie a day, horror this, horror that. I'm just going to talk about films that interest me in the horror genre. I don't really want to do anything that's gimmicky or anything. I just talk about films that interest me, that are in the genre. I mean, the first thing I say about horror is most horror films don't scare me. I'm not really easily scared with horror. I tend to look on them as like fantasy films really a lot of the time. I mean, most of them just don't get to me. The only thing that get to me is zombie movies. You can buy easy, that's an easy scare for me, zombie movies, especially George Romero. He tends to scare me with the zombie movies, but most of the other times, most horror movies don't really get to me, but I do like them. But I do view them as dark fantasy, imaginative movies really, rather than something that's all out to get me, because most of the gimmicks of horror you've seen, I've definitely seen, so it's like they're not really going to affect me in a way that terrify me or anything. But there's a lot of stuff I can enjoy. I'm going to start with Bram Stoker's Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula is the Francis Ford Coppola version of the story. It's Dracula's out of copyright, so there's been tons of Draculas. Most of them low budget, most of them unwatchable trash. But there's been like the big budget ones, like the Universal one, the Bela Lugosi, then those sequels, but it became tawdry and low budget. Then you come back with Hammer, which I'm going to do some Hammer stuff later on, but probably not in the Halloween era. Then you got some low budget stuff because Hammer's Dracula went on for like 15 years, if not 20. They kind of dominated for a long time, and there's nothing much there until then. When doing a wave, you got something like the John Badham Dracula, which no one was really interested in. Then it fell away for a while, wanted TV really, and this was the first attempt to do a Dracula film since basically Fall of Hammer, really. To actually, first real attempt to have a public consciousness again since Fall of Hammer. Since this film, there's been Dracula movies, but they've always been like these sci-fi action movies like Van Helsing or something. They've never been done as, or Dracula Untold, they've never actually been done as horror movies. It's like they're almost scared to make a Dracula horror movie. And this was kind of the early stages of that. I mean, this is a film that loved expressionist horror, but didn't really want to do a horror film. I mean, the problem with the film is it's not scary at all. It's all of its best stuff is the fantasy elements, the dark fantasy elements, the stuff that's taken from expressionism. That's all the best stuff. None of it's scary, none of it's even remotely scary, because the acting ranges from the hammy to the bad, and there's no base for horror. I mean, horror needs a base of belief in material. Maybe you look at one of the early Universal films was the Spanish Dracula, which was really terrific because it actually had like Spanish actors, but they believed in the concept. So whatever how weird it got, the belief of the actors in it set you going. A later example of that just was before Dracula with Silence of the Lambs, which had people believing in the concept, which is these serial killers, which is a real thing, but it's not as like weird as the movies make them. But you had a belief in the concept, so it really got you through a lot of it. This film doesn't have that at all. I mean, this film was like what happens when like, John Boorman goes off the rails like in Exorcist 2. This film just goes mad visually. I mean, it's terrific visually, but some of the acting is like bad. And more than that, the writing's bad. I mean, the writing is pretty atrocious. I mean, everything that's good about the film comes from the book, and everything that's bad comes from the inventions they made from the book. I mean, for example, start off at the beginning, you get the origins of Dracula in the first 5 minutes. I mean, the Dracula story, this shows a misunderstanding of the material. The Dracula story is about mystery. Who is this guy Dracula? What's he about? You go to the castle, you find out a bit about him, and then the rest of the time he's in the background, you're finding more about him. That's the story. this film just gives you the origin straight away before you even met him in the main part of the story. It just gives you origin. Oh, Dracula was Vlad the Impaler. Maybe that was an influence on Dracula, or the name at least. Let's take that and put it in the text. And you made that something really obvious. I mean, what it does lead to is a great opening for the first half of the opening, where you see all these expressions, shots of Dracula fighting the Turks, but it's all done expressionistic. It's like people, it's like figures in the foreground and these red backgrounds. And it's just movement. It's very almost animated, but it's real life. But it's beautifully done. I mean, everything's in a studio. Everything's set up. It's false. It's not real, but it's very imaginative. And that's going great. And that kind of great sequence in a flashback later on, and it helps open the film, but it also cripples the film, because then you have to go into why Dracula became Dracula. His wife died, so he renounces God. But the sequence when he renounces God is so bloody awful. There's nothing you can really do about it, because the camera's just way back, and it's almost like shooting a staged performance where Gary Oldman's doing his best to show Dracula, but he's got a whole minute to do the origin of, I'll put this sword into the cross, I renounce God. There's no build up to it. It's just, you lost your wife, yeah, you're Dracula. That's it. That's the whole thing. And it's boring. So there's nothing there. It's just dull. And it started so well, then you went, boom, and then you have to start again. And then you have to start. The problem there is, it's set up a visual still, which is great, but you can set it up anyway. So the still keeps going. I mean, there's some gorgeous shots, like going from one set, because it's going from England to Transylvania to England to Transylvania all the way through. It does all these great transitions, like going into they basically get into the Peacock, and through one of the eyes of the Peacock, you go into the tunnel where the train's going. Stuff like that is great, but it's just so head on that you don't have a chance to build up atmosphere. And then when they finally stops and builds up atmosphere as Harker goes to Castle Transylvania, we finally get some good stuff, which is basically what tends to be the best part of most Dracula films, when the guy goes to Castle Transylvania. That's always one of the best points of these films, and this one really delivers. It's like Coppola's going, I've seen these movies, I'm going to really go for it here. And he really does. I mean, you've got rats run upside down, you've got like liquid going upwards rather than down. You got Gary Oldman hammering like crazy as the old Dracula. I know it's old makeup, pancake makeup, and he's this huge red costume on that flows out like a tongue. All of that's great, and he's really overacting, but it's perfect because he knows what he's doing. It's one of those things where overacting is good if an actor knows how they should be doing it. And he really knows how he's doing it. I mean, he's the guy who's the motor of this whole film. He's like, he keeps everything together, because he knows he has to tie everything through him, and he seems to know what he's doing, which is the main selling point. This film would fall apart without Gary Oldman. And even Keanu Reeves gets killed for this film, and he's miscast. I mean, he is really miscast. I mean, he just doesn't look comfortable, because he was put in a part that he doesn't really have any context for, and he's doing his best. But if you'd had someone British for that part, they would understand the social element without having to do anything. It would have made it much scarier. It would have made it give a grounding for the horror. You don't have that. But the one thing I would say about Keanu Reeves in this film is he brings a sweetness to the film, so that even if he's been miscast, it still serves the film, because he's going through it. He's been picked on by Dracula for the first third of the movie, and then when he comes back, he's nicer than the rest of the characters. So even though he's miscast, he does bring something to it. It's just he's doing his best in a part he should never have been given. You know, which speaks a lot of the performances in this film. So he does his best. The whole sequence is great. I mean, the bit when Keanu Reeves gets attacked by the vampire bride is brilliant. It's beautifully done. Gary Oldman having the licking the blood off the razor is great. Everything Gary Oldman says is great. It's really a tour de force sequence, and then the film falls apart. But you don't realise it for a while because the style keeps going. I mean, the style keeps coming at you as you see Dracula moving to England, and there's all these shots. There's blood's hitting these sails on the ship he's travelling in. He turns into a wolf and starts attacking people. He starts to he finds where his target is, which is Winona Ryder's Mina Harker, and he starts to suck the blood off our best friend. All of that's great. It's over the top. It's cheesy as hell, but it's wonderfully over the top. It's like a director just going mad. And again, Oldman carries it. He managed to make the weird makeup work all the time. No matter what they throw at him, he keeps it going. But then, it's really over the top. It's like a schlocky movie made by a master. But then they do the bloody love story, and the love story's terrible. The love story is the problem with this film. The main problem is Dracula love story doesn't work because Dracula's a villain. And not only is he a villain by what he's doing, which is an invasion of Britain by a vampire, to try and spread his vampire empire to Britain. That's a villain move straight away. That's like a James Bond villain move. So you're not going to have sympathy for that. They try and downplay that for some reason, which is stupid because it takes away a lot of the momentum of the plot, which means they have to pump up the visuals even more, which I don't mind because they're so over the top. That's wonderful. But it means there's no momentum for the middle part of the film because instead it's focused love story. So Dracula's doing that. Then you find out he was once Vlad the Impaler and he impaled all these people and killed all these people and he was a horrible bastard. That's another problem, and you're still trying to make him a love interest. So he's now a mass murderer. So it's like making Hitler a love interest. So it could be called Hitler the Romance. This film because it's so weird where its moral areas go to if you take him seriously, which you shouldn't. And then the love stuff's so cheesy. I mean, Gary Oldman again really tries to sell it. He really goes the romance side, but it's like he's stalking her. I mean, in the 90s maybe didn't come across as badly, but even in the 90s I remember seeing it in the cinema, I was like, he's a bit of a stalker. But you went with it because it was a romantic thing, it was playing the romantic ideas, but it was still stalkerish. Now it looks even worse. Now it looks really bizarre because it looks like there's been all these tales of these male feminists the last year or so who end up turning out to have some very dodgy interactions with women. And this is what this feels like. It feels like a guy who says, oh, I love women, I'm so attached to you, and then turns out there's some dodgy things happening in the background. In this case it's like, oh yeah, I'm in love with you, but I'm also a psychopathic serial killer who's screwing your best friend and who's going to kill him and turn into the undead. And it doesn't match up at all. It's just like he's doing something absolutely horrible, and the film tries to show that, oh yeah, Winona Ryder's character is disgusting when she finds out the person she's in love with is also Dracula. But it doesn't work at all. Partially because of the writing, which is he's pumped up all the villain stuff even worse than the novel, and I've also tried to make him a romantic lead. And it's schizophrenic. I don't know how Gary Oldman managed to make this work as well as it did. In a story sense, like if you don't pull back and say, wait a minute, that is really dodgy, he's really going for it. He really makes this dysfunctional guy work. But in a lot of scenes he's acting for like 3 or 4 people because no one else around him's putting in the work. I mean, Winona Ryder in this film she's a disaster. And I like Winona Ryder in most films. I think she's underrated. But again, the same thing with Keanu Reeves was like, she's casting a part she doesn't understand. There's lots of stuff about repression, they overwrite, and it's so embarrassing to watch. It's like you're watching going, oh, because it's so not what a person in that era would actually say or think. Like, this is a very repressive era. Even if they were looking at dirty books or something, it would be done a very different way from what this is. I mean, it's because it's such a stylised film, it gets away with something, but if you know the era at least a little bit, you're like, oh, this is bad, this is really bad. and the whole film just gives her nothing to work with because the character's a moron. That's the real problem. She's playing a moron, and I think at a certain point in the film she must have realised she's playing a moron. Because this is a character who is in love with Dracula in the past, even though he's a psychopath who murders thousands of people for God. She must have been pretty stupid then. Then she's resurrected, then she falls in love with Dracula again. Even when we find out he's Dracula and he's killing all these people and killed her best friend, and he's planning to turn people undead and turn them into like slaves of these blood vampires. He's going to do the most horrible things again. She's still in love with him, and it's like, why would he want someone who's that, you know, thick? Really? The character's thick. And it's like, and there's nothing nobody can do with that character. I mean, you're playing someone who's not very bright. She's trying her best, but she's too young for the part. She doesn't quite get the part, which is funny because she was at Age of Innocence a year after. And she was really good in that. Like, she was a director who understood the part and who really pushed her to do good underrated work. In this one, nope, it's just terrible. And she can't do the operatic thing. She's not experienced enough to do the operatic elements. So she underplays it. She had a terrible accent, which I don't know why no one brought the accents up. Well, they brought them up in the review, but why did they not bring them up when they were making the film? Say, this needs to be worked on more. Because everyone's struggling. And the whole film is just like this weird. It's just like, it's almost like Coppola's trying to destroy her performance at every possible opportunity, or he's not interested or something. But it doesn't work. And for a director who's normally good with actors, this film is really weird how bad some people are who are good actors and who have done good work in the past. And beyond this film, it's just weird. Like, it's almost like he doesn't know how to direct her at all. He doesn't know how to say just less, just do less. But they're working with such a bad script, especially that part. Everything's overwritten in a way that suggests the person who wrote it doesn't understand the era he's writing about. Everything is terribly written, everything's awfully written, and it's like no one can adjust it to make it workable for the actors. And no one's wanting to bring it back because Coppola's really going for the operatic, and he's not noticing that some of his actors aren't comfortable with it, and he has to adjust, and it never adjusts. It just becomes over the top, over the top, over the top. And that's what's good and bad with the film, because some actors get it. I mean, Gary Oldman gets it. He just, even when no one else in the scene's up to his level, he's still going for it. He's still making scenes work. Anthony Hopkins is going way over the top. As soon as he arrives, he's like got a lay of the land. This is, you know, this is OTT filmmaking. I'm going to go as high as the visuals. And he's hilarious in it. I mean, he does not care. He's just going for it. Richard E. Grant seems to get it as well. He's in a film that's OTT. He's only the background actors who gets that he's in an OTT film. And he just really goes for it too. I mean, he's less to do, but he's still, you tell he gets what film he's in. The rest of the actors are trying, but some of them are given such horrible dialogue, and it's almost like they were given a take or two, and that's fine, we've got it, let's move on. No one seems to be given the time to develop. Everything's in comic book level of, you know, old comic books where everything's just a visualization and there's no real depth to it. That's what this film feels like. It feels like no one's worked out what the film is. So, it's all over the place, acting wise. And whenever that becomes a problem, they throw more blood on the screen. Blood flies everywhere. There are sequences intercutting God knows what. There's so scenes where you're like, I'm sure there was a point to this at some point, but just keep going over the top, it's fine. I mean, the end's brilliant, makes no sense. I mean, there's a bit we have to cheat. Dracula just runs away once anyone stands up to Dracula after all this build up, after an hour and a half build up to how scary Dracula should be, but let's make him romantic as well. Someone just goes to slap to him and he runs away, which is hilarious. I mean, it really works in a bad movie way. It's like, oh my god, this is so sad. He just runs away. And then they chase after him and he's escaping them. And none of it makes any sense because it's almost like Coppola realised this is incomprehensible because no one knows where they are. So let's just make it really fast and let's go OTT with the visuals, and it works. He just goes completely bananas with the visuals. He has sequences of horsemen killed by the vampire brides. He has sequences of them riding fast, and you don't know where they're riding, but it's so wonderful that you don't care. And then at the end, when they're chasing them to the castle, when they finally caught up with them to the castle, they do these old-fashioned, old camera things, but in colour. And it makes up for the fact that you're not quite sure what the hell's going on, but it's so wonderful, and the score's going way over the top, and it's great. And that's whole movies like that. It's way over the top, and it's great as soon as you do not think about it. Because it's just visually brilliant. I mean, it's like, for visuals, Coppola is going like perfect, and for acting, he's going like his worst ever film. It's really weird, but it's a wonderful mess. I mean, it's a beautiful mess. I mean, I've seen this film going over many times, and I'll see it going over many other times. You have to kind of steel yourself for the bad stuff, but then there's all the visual stuff, and there's all those old camera moves. Throughout the film, they have old cameras, and they have like zooms and like dolly shots that go flying in and flying back out, and they've got London that doesn't have any pollution, which was inaccurate for the time. Though you see blue skies in London in the Victorian era, which is like, and I was watching it going, London's never as bright as that. That's obviously a Californian skyline. They should have changed that. And it's really funny that way. But it doesn't matter though, because it's so over the top. And for every time you get a bit, there's a great sequence, or there's a guy woman going completely over the top. And it's great. I mean, it's wonderful. It's like, it's almost like this then Leon was a peak Gary Oldman, mad Gary Oldman got, and then he kind of realised there was nowhere else to go and over the top levels. Let's actually go back down the way to human levels again, because he couldn't really top this. He was going so far over the top. It was wonderful. And it's something like Tom Hardy seems to have picked up on, is like, how far over the top can you go? The amazing thing in this film is Nicolas Cage is not in it, because it was Coppola's his uncle. It's like, it's the one film he should have been in a Coppola film, and he's not in it. It's really bizarre, because he'd have been perfect for this film. You know, I've got to say, I love this film, but it's a mess. I mean, I feel actually bad for like Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder, because it just wasn't their fault that they were bad in it. It was just like they weren't given any help. And they were given like bad script, and they were just not given any work. I mean, this is a script that should have been rewritten by someone good. So this is your idea, let's hire someone who can get some of this dialogue to at least be understandable to the actors. Because sometimes they're saying things that they can get the general idea what they should be saying, but it's obvious they don't quite get. There's something about it, they know something's wrong, but they don't know how to get around the thing that's wrong about it. So they just go for it and hope for the best, and they don't have a director protecting them. Well, that's Bram Stoker's Dracula. I can't say much more about Bram Stoker's Dracula without going, it's wonderfully over the top. Because it is, it's just beautifully over the top. So please go see. Most of you have probably seen it already who's watching this, but it's worth a rewatch, especially in Blu-ray where you get all the colours. And the colours are beautiful, they really stand out, they really help the pace of the film. You really see the craftsmanship, especially the early part when in the Castle Dracula, where you've got the blue flames and you've got all the creepy stuff. It's wonderful on Blu-ray, so definitely try and see it in Blu-ray. Well, that's me and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Next up is a film that's even weirder.